Hey guys, Lisa with Our Weekend Homestead. This year we set out to grow enough tomatoes to provide us with all of our own tomato products for a whole entire year. We tripled the amount of tomatoes we planted in the garden, and the tomatoes have started coming on. They've actually been coming on for a couple weeks now. As you can see here on the back counter, I have bags of tomatoes that I've processed and frozen. And now I have about 45 pounds of tomatoes and I'm ready to make my first batch of sauce. This time of year, you'll find me out in the garden early in the morning harvesting the tomatoes. I find if you pick them first thing in the morning, they have the best flavor. Our tomatoes don't come on all at the same time, so this is something that I have to do on a daily basis. I'm also watching for pests like the tomato hornworms and rodents, and I might pick things a little bit sooner just to save them from all of the pests. We do have the cat working overtime and a beautiful bird that has been helping us with the worms. So these tomatoes we picked this morning, I'm going to show you what I do normally when they come in little by little and I'm getting ready to freeze them to save them until we have enough to make a batch of sauce. What I do is I just go ahead and cut the tops off of the tomatoes. I slice them open and then I'm going to just pull out the seeds. Just quickly pull those out and throw them in a bowl. What I'm going to do is get a Ziploc bag and weigh them out. I want 5 pounds per Ziploc. It makes it easier to know how many tomatoes I have and get ready for making a big batch of sauce. So now I'm going to start processing the tomatoes through my food mill. These are the tomatoes that were previously frozen and thawed out. And what the food mill is going to do is it's going to remove the skins from the tomatoes and puree them. So I'm going to go ahead and get started doing that. Now that I finished processing all of the previously frozen tomatoes, I'm going to start processing the ones that I picked this morning. I found that processing the fresh tomatoes through the mill was a lot easier than the previously frozen ones. So we went ahead and processed about 40 pounds of tomatoes, and this is a 20-quart stock pot, and we've got about 15 quarts in here. So a lot of the tomatoes that went through the food mill, it didn't get processed completely, so we wanted to take it and put it into a pot, kind of simmer it down a little bit, and we're going to run it through the food mill one more time so we don't waste anything. So now I'm going to get the onions and the garlic ready for the sauce. And what we do is when we cut up our onions, we save the skins and any of the end pieces, and we use those in our chicken stock. So I'm going to save these just in a Ziploc bag, and we keep them in the refrigerator, or freezer actually, until we're ready to make chicken stock. The recipe I'm using today for my sauce I found on the Prairie Homestead. I'll have a link to that recipe in the details below. This recipe also follows the recipe that you can find in the Ball Complete Home Preserving Cookbook. Now that we have the onions chopped and the garlic minced, we're going to go ahead and get it on the stove and start sauteing it. Now I'm going to add all the dry ingredients to my sauce. This is where you could add dried oregano or basil to your sauce. I don't typically do that. I end up using fresh herbs when I'm creating my meals with the sauce later on. Once the onions and garlic are translucent and fragrant, go ahead and add those to your sauce. Remember the tomatoes that we had to reprocess after cooking down a little bit? That yielded us about 2 quarts of sauce. Now comes the fun part. It's time to get the water bath canner ready and start preparing our jars. I added a tablespoon of bottled lemon juice to each pint jar to make them safe for water bath canning. Now it's time to fill our jars with the hot sauce. You want to make sure to leave 1/2 inch headspace on each jar so that they seal properly. Now we're going to load all the jars into the water bath canner and adjust the water level. You want to make sure to have at least 1 inch of water above the tops of the jars. Our processing time is 40 minutes, and you don't want to start your timer until you know the water has begun to boil. Once your specific processing time is complete, turn off the burner and open the lid and allow the jars to cool for an additional 5 minutes before removing them. So here we are the next day, and we ended up with about 19 pints of tomato sauce. This project took us about 12 hours. We had planned on it taking about 6 to 8 hours, but the food mill alone took us probably about 2.5 hours to mill the tomatoes, and then simmering down all the sauce. We did about 40 pounds of tomatoes, which is a larger batch than what we've ever done before. So that took probably about 8 hours to get it down to about half of the material that we started with. So it was a really long night for us. I would suggest starting this project a little bit earlier than we did, but we're super happy with the end results. Now we expect to get about another 100 pounds of tomatoes out of the plants that we have in the garden. So we're going to be doing some diced tomatoes, we're going to do some whole tomatoes, canned, and also some salsa. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those upcoming videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We thank you so much for watching our videos, and we love to connect with you. So if you have questions, comments, or any ideas for videos coming up, please leave that in the section below. And if you like our videos, be sure and give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.